Tan here, Asia's Elite Parenting Coach, and I hope you've been enjoying the Facebook Live videos that I have been shooting over the last 2 weeks. And I had a lot of feedback from yesterday's live video because I was posting about puppets and how you can use them. So do go to my Facebook page and check out the post before this, because you definitely see the one about puppets, okay, and how you can really use puppets to, you know, bring out to get shy children to speak up and to bring out their ideas, especially when they don't feel comfortable talking about it. So I'm here in Calgary, and I'm right in the middle of the IPA Triennial World Conference. So that's kind of, you know, a really big deal for me, because, you know, I'm going to be speaking tomorrow morning, so I'm really excited about it. And I've just got my, you know, my IPA conference t-shirt, so I'm really excited about it. But yeah, so I'm going to be addressing a question today, and this question came from a parent here. Okay, interestingly, she is from Asia, but she's just lived here, and she's got 4 children, and this is a question that she has, which I thought I would like to address here, because a lot of parents have the same question. Okay, and I'm specifically going to, it's not going to be specifically for Asian parents who have migrated overseas, even though I know that they will struggle with this, but it's also for all parents, you know, who are migrating overseas, or living overseas, or are planning to, or, you know, or who have exposure to, you know, to that the children have exposure to different cultures, and they're wondering what to do with them. So the question is, how do you teach children about our culture when they are so exposed to the Western culture, and it feels like we are forcing them to embrace something that they are not keen on. Okay, so when I ask her about this culture thing and what she means about it, she says that, you know, she's Asian, and, you know, she finds that it's really hard that, you know, she's living in a Western country, and, you know, the children have Western friends, and they embrace a culture that, you know, may conflict with the Asian culture. So, you know, and I think that that's something that we struggle with. But I think that more importantly, there are a lot of Malaysian parents who also struggle with this, because, you know, our children are increasingly exposed to watching television, and maybe your children go to international school and have, you know, a lot of international friends, and so, you know, there's a lot of exposure and immersion in different cultures. And you know, even though, like, you know, my boys and I, you know, we live in Hong Kong, but, you know, the boys go to an international school, and, you know, used to go to an international school, and I mix with a lot of, you know, different foreigners from different countries, and so we are constantly, you know, we are constantly immersed in, you know, a rainbow of culture. And a lot of Asians may feel very uncomfortable with this, because they want to maintain their own culture, and, you know, they want the children to also embrace their own culture, but they don't want to force it on the children, yet they don't know how to teach them. And the interesting thing about culture is you cannot explain it. There's no rational discussion for it. You can't. And I remember explaining this to my boys before, and they, you know, I said that, okay, before we eat, and we go back to Papa's house for Chinese New Year, before we eat, we have to greet everybody. And they're like, why? I'm like, because it's polite. And they're like, how is that polite? I mean, we say please and thank you, isn't that polite enough? And it was kind of interesting, because we had this discussion so long ago, and they were already asking me those questions. I think they were 4 or 5 years old. They were already asking me those questions, and they would say something like, so what do we say? I said, okay, we say Papa sick, which means grandma eat. And he's like, why would you say that? How is that polite? So there's the whole thing about culture is you can't explain it. It's not like 1 + 1 = 2. You cannot rationalize it, and so it's really hard to, you know, to teach it sometimes. But the beautiful thing is that I think that we need to show children that we are proud to embrace our culture, and that, you know, we're not forcing it on them, but it's entirely up to them what they want to embrace. But if they see that we're proud to embrace it, and that we're very excited when we're talking about it, then I think it will give them a very positive outlook of it. But if they see that we're frustrated because we don't even want to follow it in the first place, then, you know, it will give them a very negative impression of it. Okay, so I'm gonna try and answer this question as much as I can. This question basically falls into the category of enculturation. Enculturation is how children learn cultures from the generations before that, and I think a lot of times we learn this, when we are immersed with people and of a particular culture, and we embrace the culture, whether it is consciously or subconsciously. And I, for one, I'm very, very resilient. I'm very adaptable, and my boys and I are very well traveled, and wherever we go, we try to immerse ourselves into their culture. So we're not like, okay, let's keep to ourselves. We're traveling to US, we keep to ourselves. We only mix with Asian people in the US, or we only mix with Asian people in Canada. I mean, we don't want that. We want to be immersed in other people's culture as well. So what does it do? Some parents feel very threatened. It's like, oh no, they will lose their identity as Asians if they embrace all these Western cultures. But I don't feel that way. I don't think that we are so limited in that we can only, it's not like a cup. When you fill it up, it's full. If you put any more things in, then you'll lose the initial stuff that's in there because it flows out. I don't think we are like that. I think that the more cultures we're exposed to, and we're able to assimilate in those cultures, then the better we are at deciding which culture to embrace and which part of different cultures to embrace. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Like when my boys go back to my grandma's house, we will say proposik. Okay, when we go to Italy, we will say buon appetito, which is everybody enjoy your meal. When we're in Serbia, we'll say prijetno, which means like bon appetit, like asking people to eat. It's the same, it's different concepts, similar but different concepts, and they are all cultural rules. It's not written anywhere, but it's cultural, and people say it differently. Okay. And I like these cultures, and we pick and choose which ones we like, and wherever we go, we adjust and we adapt. So at Popo's house, I won't say prijetno. We don't say that because it's not appropriate. It's cultural. It's something that you have to do with those people. So I'm not going to preach to you, but in the Bible they say is when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So when you're with a certain people, it's good to assimilate into the culture. It doesn't mean that you lose your identity. It just means that you get to choose which part of which culture you want to adapt. And yes, there's certain rules that will make you polite. Like when you go to Japan, you bow. When you agree, you bow. And I think that's really polite. But when you go somewhere else, when you go to the US, you don't bow. I mean, you do that and they're like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Okay, so culture is very, very sensitive. It's different from one place to another, and and being able to to learn different cultures and to appreciate it. I'm not saying embrace it like a religion. You can't embrace two religions at the same time, but I believe that you can switch cultural norms wherever you go. You can switch to one culture. When you're in Japan, you can learn how to be polite in the Japanese context. When you're in Malaysia, you can learn how to be polite in the Malaysian context. And I mean, it's fine. It's okay. And it's not like when you embrace one culture, you let all the other cultures go. It doesn't work that way. I think it's a very, very narrow mindset to think that way. And I think the more cultures you expose children to, the better they are at embracing it, and they can switch back and forth from different cultures, from one culture to another culture. And so I don't believe that you'll lose your original culture. Now what happens is a lot of parents tend to force their children. You have to greet Popo. I don't care whether you like it or not, you have to greet her. Now when you do that, children end up hating certain aspects of the culture, which leaves a very bitter taste in your mouth. Let me just give you an example. Okay, now when I was very young, my mom sent me to swimming class because I had childhood asthma. So the doctor said, oh, you let her learn swimming, it will strengthen up her lungs. So my mom sent me to swimming class, and this swimming instructor, she taught me and my sister simple breaststroke and frog style and backstroke and freestyle. And so he taught us different styles. And then but we never really, we always stuck to the shallow side of the pool. So one day he took us to the deep side of the pool, and he literally pushed us in. Now he did that because he wanted to teach us how to swim in the deep end of the pool. So was he successful? Yes, he was successful in teaching us to swim in the deep end of the pool. But the way that he did it, because he forced us to do it, and it was literally a sink or swim situation, there was no other option, because we were forced to do it. We could do it, but we will never swim voluntarily for leisure, because there's always going to be this sour taste in your mouth. It's like for those of us who like to eat like oysters and cockles, and you eat and eat, and then you put one really bad one in, and you're like, oh my God, it's horrible, and it leaves this really horrible taste in your mouth that will put you off for a very, very long time. So that's the same thing. I don't enjoy swimming. Now, I appreciate that I know how to swim. So if my boys are swimming, and every time I take my boys swimming, I'll always sit very close to the pool. So if anything happens, I have to jump in and save them. I can do it. But for leisure, you will not find me swimming, because to me that is stressful. Okay, and the same thing about so many other things. Learning to play the piano, it's the same thing as well. I can play the piano, but I won't do it for leisure. How many of you here will read a book for leisure, not for self-improvement, not for a course that you've done, but for leisure? Like, I need to relax, I need to read a book. How many of you would say that? None, because we were all forced to read, right? Now, I'm saying don't force your child to embrace certain elements of a culture, because when you force them, it's gonna leave a very bitter taste in their mouth, and it's very, very hard to get them to appreciate it. Now, so you may be saying, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to force children to learn these things and learn that thing? If not, how are they gonna learn it? Now, you can teach them to like it by helping them to appreciate it, because when you appreciate something, you will learn it. I appreciate the Japanese culture, and I learn as much as I can about the Japanese culture when I'm there. I learn about how their food culture, the language that they speak. I learn about what is respectful and disrespectful. I learn about the roles of women in their society, and I learn all these things because I appreciate their culture for being so demure and so systematic and so well organized and so polite, and I like that part of the culture. And so when I go there, I want to learn it, and we want our children to want to learn our culture like they want to learn any other culture. The only way to do that is to get them to appreciate it. Same thing with learning music. If you want your children to learn to play an instrument, get them to appreciate music in the first place. Wow, can you hear that music? What can you hear? Can you hear the drums? Can you hear the cymbal? Wow, you know what? When this part of the music comes on, the violin is really, really strong. You can hear the sound of the violin. Oh, you know what? In the orchestra just now, when it went into the chorus, it makes the hair at the back of my neck stand up. Did you feel that? Did you feel how powerful it is? Now, if you're enthusiastic about it, your children will appreciate it as well, because they say, wow, mom is so excited about this, and then they want to learn more about it. Same thing with swimming. If swimming was fun, if it was seen as something that they absolutely enjoy and appreciate, they will learn to swim. My boys do not have any swimming classes. They taught themselves to swim. I only gave them swimming classes when they're very much older, when they really wanted to compete in swimming as a sport. But before that, they taught themselves to swim, and they love it. I can't even stop them from going to the pool. But for me, you will not get me into the pool unless my boys were drowning and I have to jump in to save them. Do you see the difference in approach? So you can choose what kind of approach you want to use when you teach your children everything, because all this boils down to applied child developmental psychology, and that's my forte. I specialize in applied child developmental psychology. For those of you who don't know me, I've been teaching in international preschools for the past 15 years in Malaysia, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, and in China as well. And I have also gone into teacher training. I train early childhood educators in universities and colleges and teacher training centers for the last 10 years. And now I'm a parent coach, because I believe that if I can train a teacher to handle a class of 20, 30 children, I can definitely train a parent to handle 2 or 3 children really, really well. Okay, and that's what it is. If you understand applied child developmental psychology, you understand what motivates them to learn and what gets them to be internally driven to learn. You don't have to push them at all. You don't have to force them. They will do it. But in order to do that, you have to learn how to do it. And that's where I come into the picture, because I happen to know how children work, and I know how to make applied child developmental psychology simple enough for parents to understand and super applicable, so they know exactly how to use it at home. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this. And for those of you who send me questions, I'm going to try and deal with a different question every weekday. So keep them coming in, and I will line them up and address them. And also, next week I'm going to share with you another book that I have recently absolutely loved. And for those of you who have seen my previous book reviews. You know, there are books that I have come across and I absolutely, you know, am so captivated by it. I have one more book. It's a little bit wordier. It's for slightly older children, but it's an amazing book, and I'll highly encourage you guys to hunt it down. I know it's not easy for you to find books in Asia, but some of these books are really worth hunting down. Okay, so tune in. For those who are watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button so they can watch more of this. For those of you who are watching this on Facebook, if you want to watch more, you have to, unfortunately, you have to like it. You have to like it and share it so that you can be informed when future Facebook lives come out like this, okay? Because if you don't, then you will not be able to see very much of it. Unfortunately, that's the way that Facebook wants it to be. So yeah, again, I will see you again soon, and feel free to send your questions in, and I'll definitely address this from an applied child developmental psychology point of view, okay? So this is not my personal point of view. This stuff is researched, and it can be applied in so many different ways, but the underlying principle is very much the same, okay? So thank you so much again for watching, and have a nice week. Goodbye.